Okay, yeah, let's start. So yeah, I'm Michael. I work in the Esri R&D Center in Zurich. And yeah, the last couple of months I was involved in the creation of this new street designer. So I was mostly working on the rules, on the so-called lane rules that you can apply on street lanes. I will shortly introduce the concept a bit more. And yeah, what I'm going to do is I give a short, we call it a sneak preview for the new street designer in CityEngine 2025.0. I will start with a very short presentation and then do kind of a live demo. So yes, streets in CityEngine so far were very simple. A street consisted of a sidewalk, a roadbed, and on the other side, another sidewalk. This still permitted to create complex streets with many different lanes, as we see here, done with the complete street rule. But it was a bit the problem that the rules got extremely complex, because for all types of lanes that you would want to have in this rule, you would need to incorporate them in one big rule. And so, yeah, you see here a screenshot of a few, let's say, pages of the inspector for the complete street rule. So yeah, rules get very complicated. Now, yeah, as I said, in the last couple of months, we have been working on a new concept for the streets that we call street designer. So the new idea is that a street is a user-defined configuration of roadbed and sidewalk lanes, as you see here on the left side. After configuring this, the user can apply different lane rules to the individual to the individual lanes, as you see here. So for example, in the middle, we have 4 rules for car lanes. Then on the side, we have 2 lanes with rules for bike paths. Then also here, a lane with vegetation. On the other side, also a lane with trees on the sidewalk, and then some more details. So a very narrow lane with those poles, with those bollards, or with the lamps, or with those benches, or then also, let's say, a combined lane with bike and car parking. So yeah, so you start with lanes, and then you can apply different rules on those lanes. And then the third part of the whole thing is that you can save the street configuration and you can reapply them on other street segments. So basically what's coming with this street designer in 2025.0 is first new drawing tools for street editing. So as you know it already, those were a bit improved already, the normal, let's say, street drawing tools. And then we added tools to create those lane configuration. Then the second part is a collection of lane rules in Esri. And then the third part is a manager for the street configuration, so that you can, as I said, that you can save street configuration and then apply them on other parts of your street network. Yeah, so I think I've already talked a bit about it. This concept with lanes and lane rules. This is very similar to what they do on streetmix.com. That serves kind of as an inspiration for our concept. So they also have different lanes, like lanes for cars or buses, as we see here, but then also lanes for special objects for decoration, like trees, lamps, here those planters, and so on. So yeah, it's a very similar concept that we use. They do not match those two pictures, but you see that it basically in both cases is the same concept. I think also what Devin showed, those cross section of the street, that looked very familiar and very similar to what we are doing. So yeah, I jump into the live demo, or it's actually not really a live demo. I recorded it, but I will try to comment it live. The thing is that, yeah, it's still an alpha version that we have of the whole thing, and I didn't want to risk it for a live demo that everything crashes or goes broken during the demo. So I recorded it before, but I will talk over it, right now. So yeah, do you still see that properly?
Yeah, all good. All good.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, I will start with, I said street as a street configuration. So we create a couple of lanes and then we attach rules to each of the lanes. In the first part, I will show how that can be done. So first I draw a street segment. And now with the new street editing tools, I add a couple of lanes. So the idea here is to create a road with 2 car lanes and a bike path on each of the sides, and then on the sidewalk to put some trees. So I create a total of 6, or I already created here a total of 6 lanes, and now I set the appropriate width. So 2 meters for the bike paths, and now I think 4 meters for the inner lanes with the cars, and for the sidewalk 5 meters. So yeah, here I select the lanes, and now I go into Esri to get my lane rules. You see, we already have quite a collection of rules for the lanes. So for vehicles, we have a lane just for cars or other vehicles that we can configure. Then we have some rules for vegetation, for example, trees on sidewalks, a lane completely covered by vegetation. And then for the sidewalk, a few things, just a plain sidewalk. Then, for example, for lamps, for furniture, like benches and so on. Or also then with poles or bollards. Then we created a bit more complicated rules for parking combined with other decoration elements. And finally, just a buffer between lanes. But yeah, you will see shortly what can be done with those rules. So yeah, I will pick now the car lane and apply it to the car lanes. Yeah? So you already see we have some gray asphalt, but no markings. And I add them now. So I want some dashed marking in the middle of the road. And yeah, you see it's here. Next, I pick the 2 bike paths. Again, I assign the car lane. But this time, first of all, I want to have red asphalt, as we have it here in Switzerland for the bike lanes. Then next, I put a symbol for a bike rider. And now I also add some dashed marking. I make them a little bit shorter on the bike path. Then here, yeah, I also had to switch the travel direction of the lane so that the bike rider symbol is into the right direction. And let's go on with the markings. And now finally I make all the markings yellow. Now the last part, the sidewalk. Again, I go into Esri and this time I pick a rule that creates a sidewalk with trees. Do some more configuration. Larger spacing, and then a more realistic visualization. So yeah, here it is, our first street configuration. I said that you can save those configurations and then reapply them. I will now show how to do that. So basically you just pick the segment, go to the inspector and add a new street configuration. I call this the standard configuration. Yeah. So as a next step, I'd like to have this configuration, but with 2 crossings enabled at both sides, at both ends of the street segments. What I do is I draw another street segment. And now I can pick the configuration that I saved before and apply it also on this street segment. And you see here it shows up. So now I select the lanes for cars and bike, and I enable a crossing on both ends, as you see here. And finally, I go back to the inspector and I save this new configuration as standard with crossing. So yeah, this is the first part of the demonstration. As I said, this was about creating a street configuration. So first we put some lanes, we gave them a width, and then we put individual rules on the different lanes. And I also showed how you can save them and how you can reuse them. And now that's what you're going to do in the second part. So this is about applying the rules, this is about applying the street configuration on a larger street network. So for this, I already prepared a couple of street configuration. So the simple or the standard street that I already presented before, that is still the same. Then a wider boulevard that I've already shown before. So really with, let's say, the complete range of things that we can do with vegetation, with parking, with this buffer lane, with benches, with lamps and everything. And then here, the third configuration is a bit more special. So we have a bus lane, then in the middle we have some trees, and then on the right side we have a bike path and some parking. Now let's apply them on a street network. So first I draw a long segment for the boulevard. Again, I go to the inspector and select my street configuration for the boulevard. So yeah, that looks nice. Then next, I'm gonna draw a second street segment with a curve to show that we can also do nice curved streets. You see that this goes very smooth and easy with the new drawing tools. And now I again go into the inspector to the street configuration collection, and this time I want to apply this special lane with the parking and bus lane and trees. So zoom in a bit, and yeah, you see that we have applied this configuration, and also here it goes really nicely around this curve. So let's go on. I'm making it a bit bigger so that I can add some more streets. So I add, this sidecar. So I add one more street. It automatically puts the boulevard on this street, but actually I want to have just this small standard street that we created in the beginning. So I select the street segment and I go to the inspector, and again I select my standard width crossing street. You see that it has been applied, and now I draw just some more streets. Also with the small streets, small street with crossing applied. Sorry, I have to go back a bit. So here you see a problem. We have those trees on the intersection. That's kind of a bug or an improvement that we are still working on. So for the moment, I have to fix the intersections and corners and stuff like that manually. So I will just select all of them. And again, I go into Esri and search for the appropriate rule. Here. Put on this default node rule onto the intersection. And you see that the intersection now looks fine and right. So this is already the second part of the demo. So in the first part, I've shown how to create a street configuration. Now in the second part, we took a few configured street configurations and applied them on an actual street network. Into the presentation, I hope that works. So short recap. As I said, we have three parts in the new Street Designer. So first, the drawing tools. As you have seen in the beginning, we created a couple of lanes. So those four lanes for vehicles, 2 for cars, 2 for bikes, and then 2 lanes as sidewalks on the side. Drawing tools. We also use them later on to draw the whole street network. That's the first part. Then second part, we applied rules from Esri. So our lane rule collection that we will ship with Esri. And then the third part that I have also shown is the manager for the street configuration, so that you can save a street configuration and then you can reapply it on other street segments, like I did in the second part of the demonstration. So the presentation with a few screenshots. So here again, as I've already shown, the large boulevard. Jump over this. Then here, the final state of the street network that we created just before. And then a view a bit from more inside the lane. And another view. I think here, you can nicely see that we are already able to create quite some details. So for example, the benches, then those poles, then also the lamps, trees. Then also, we have bike parking, then here the diagonal parking. Yeah. But it still looks a bit empty because there are no buildings around and so on. So I just did this once in like 5 minutes or 10 minutes to put some buildings around to make it look a bit more realistic. And I think it's not a super high quality, especially the buildings in the background. But I think overall we really see that we can create already quite realistic and complex and lively streets, yeah. So as I said, it was shorter than 50 minutes. I'm already at the end. I do not want to make it artificially longer. Thanks for the attention, yeah.
Cool. So let's see if there are some comments and questions. Sweet. All right, Elliot. I know Elliot. Elliot has a question. Thanks, Michael. This looks great, but what about roundabouts? Also, will this new street tool functionality be accessible via Python for automating street configurations, etc.? As always, thanks, Matthias, for organizing. You are most welcome.
Try to answer the question. Roundabouts, yes. I mean, roundabouts are already supported now. And of course, they will be supported in the future. At the moment, what we have, the whole rule sets for the intersections are very simple, but this is a work in progress that I expect that we will have this for next versions, that we can do also more complex roundabouts. But you can already do simple roundabouts. You could also put some vegetation or something in the middle of the roundabout. You have the sidewalk around the roundabout. Regarding Python, as far as I know, yes, but I'm also not quite sure about the roadmap, about the whole thing. Yeah.
There's also this, let's say, inheritance evaluation that I just thought of. That, for example, the street width, depending on the street settings which you have, it's either going to use a hard set value, let's say, for example, for the width, or you can let the system pick the width of the street where you start to set the width, right? So that could also be really cool in a similar fashion, where you could define the rules on if you connect to this at the end and this at the beginning, what the configurations are and what the street types are, that the system would automatically pick from, or you could basically define what the rules are of which one to assign. Could potentially be done with Python, as Elliot mentioned, but that's something that there are hints of this already, also with the inheritance of the block subdivision and so on. Is that something that I guess you're considering a million things, but that's something that feels very natural as an extension, right?
So generally, I mean, we've been very busy with the lane rules, with these very simple basic things that I showed, so that you have straight or curved street with one type of configuration on it. And then, the whole thing, like, as you said, transition from one type of road to another, and also, let's say, stuff like intersection, that they look more realistic, that they also have marking, or also the roundabouts. That is, let's say, coming in the future. Yeah. At the moment, we are really concerned about getting, let's say, the basic stuff done. Yeah.
Step by step, right? And
exactly.
As we saw before, there's more use of the network analyst in the future. So I guess you guys are busy. There's time to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But a fantastic teaser. I mean, again, like here, I would have a couple of questions, but this is way, way, way too early. Yeah, I don't see more questions at the moment from the audience.